Welcome to another conversation in People in Fundraising. This podcast features interviews with nonprofit professionals who discuss their career journeys, lessons learned, and enthusiasm for working in fundraising. And here is your host, the founder of People in Fundraising, Tim Wilson.
Hello, everyone, and today is Thursday, March 5th, 2026. I am delighted to welcome Aaron Silverman to the People in Fundraising weekly nonprofit series. And Aaron is a special guest today, joining us from South Carolina. Aaron, it's nice to meet you, and I look forward to our conversation today.
Yeah, Tim, I really appreciate you having us on here so we can talk about what the Ari Foss Foundation does. And as you said, we're down here in South Carolina, in the Charleston area.
Wonderful. Thank you. So, Aaron, as our first question, I'd like you to share with our audience about the Ari Foss Foundation's mission, its services, Ari and your family as well. Anything you'd like to share, the time is yours, please.
Yeah, so I am the co-founder and executive director of the Ari Foss Foundation. As I like to say, more importantly, I'm Ari's dad. Ari was stillborn back in 2014, and my wife and I went from going into the excitement of having a birth and having to be able to take our child home, to the unthinkable happened, and we had to end up planning a funeral and go through that process.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Appreciate it. Thank you. And so the Ari Foss Foundation was created to help families in that situation. They have the baby that they want to take home. Maybe they lost it through stillbirth, or the child was born and then passed away in the first 27 days of life, which would be a neonatal loss. So what we do is we help pay for cremations and funerals in those situations. And like my background is science. I don't do science anymore, but I got a master's in science degree. So when we lost Ari, I did what any science person would do. I started researching it. Just went to Google and started looking it up, which is not a good thing to be doing when you should be grieving for your child that just passed away.
You see,
And
yeah.
so like at the hub of what we want to do is push information to families when they have that loss. So we have a brochure that our referral hospitals give to the families when they have the loss. And
Okay.
so that way they don't have to go and find us. They're able to know that we're there, and they can just go to our website to find our information. So we're trying to be active and pushing information rather than passive and just waiting for things to come to us.
I see. Okay, thank you for that. And I'm so sorry about Ari's passing. That's gut-wrenching. Um, I wondered, Aaron, as you were starting your own foundation in Ari's honor, did you and family members, other people that you were working with, did you look to other community organizations, religious institutions, other foundations that were doing similar bereavement planning for unexpected losses with families you could build upon and what they were doing and tailor it for your goals?
So my wife and I are both are the co-founders of the Ari Foss Foundation.
Okay.
And when we started it, we looked around to see what else was out there. Again, this was like back in 2015 when we started so Ari Foss Foundation was officially formed in 2015, but we didn't really start doing anything until 2022. There was a lag in there due to life and kids and having a for-profit business and stuff. So,
Yes, yeah.
but so back when we did research it, we only found a few that were doing something similar,
Okay.
but they were passive. Like you had to go find them on the internet.
Mm.
And the one the one that closely that aligned closest with what we do, they had a little checklist that you had to certify that like you've reached out to other organizations for money, you've tried government resources, you've tried to GoFundMe. And our position's the exact opposite. We're here, we have funding caps, but we help up to $500 for a cremation, $1,200 for a funeral. We don't care if you went and asked anyone else. We are the first line. And if your cremation is only 450, then like come to us. We'll take care of that bill, and you don't have to worry about anything. We don't want you to have to go. We want the families to focus on grieving,
Yeah.
and get to that as quickly as possible. So we don't ask them to do those other things that one nonprofit does. Now, they don't. I don't know if they still require that, but back in 2015, when we researched it, that's what they did, and
I see.
so we took the exact opposite approach, and we were like, we want to be active. We want the families to get to that grieving process as quickly as possible because they're grieving regardless, and so the planning part just makes it more difficult. And so,
Sure, definitely. And in the subsequent years, have you seen what's been the impact, the outreach from families, that they received the brochure at a time of tragic loss? How many families have you been able to assist, for example?
So we started the program at MUSC. Since Ari, my wife and I have had two children. Those both were born at MUSC. The two, Ari was not, but those two children were. And so we started there. And in 2023, we helped four families. Not a lot because we're just getting the program running.
Sure.
In 2025, we helped eight families. And also we expanded the criteria for the families we helped. Initially, it was just stillbirth. And then through building, we call it the Cremation and Funeral Financial Assistance Program.
Mm.
We worked with MUSC. They have a bereavement coordinator there for the pediatrics department. And she works in palliative care, but she works with pediatrics. We worked together in kind of building the program. And then she asked, like, hey, this child wasn't stillborn. They were born and lived for a few hours and passed away. Would you be willing? And we were like, yes. And then that eventually expanded to all of neonatal loss.
Okay.
And so there was eight in 2025, 24. And then last year we helped 39 families. Sorry, 39 families
Wow.
last year.
Okay.
And so that's why there's that big increase, because we expanded the criteria. Um, I incorrectly said 51 because at the end of the year, it was 51 total, 4 plus 8 plus 39 is 51 as of the end of last year.
I see.
And then we expanded to another local hospital called Roper St. Francis.
Mm.
And we're in the beginning stages of expanding to at least two more hospitals in the southern part of the state.
Oh.
And so far this year, we have helped eight families. Um,
Mm.
we don't talk with all the families we help. Some of them will have a family member submit the form on their behalf.
Mm.
Um, but we always verify with the hospital that the loss did occur. Like that's our only validation. We have contacts at the hospital. We just email them and say, hey, did Sally have a loss 3 days ago? And they just say yes or no. And they're like,
Okay.
and then that's the validation we need. We don't need death certificates or anything like that. Yeah,
Mm.
like when we did our initial research, those entities wanted proof of death. And I'm like, we don't want that,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's why we focus on the hospital relationship. So that way the hospital can just give us a yes or no
Mm.
that that happened. And so for some of the families that we have helped, I've gotten one of the emails in particular, we were the difference from her being able to take her baby home as a cremation or having the hospital take care of it however they do. And so we were
Wow.
the reason that she got to take her baby home as a cremation because stillbirth and neonatal loss, while it can impact anybody, it does disproportionately impact low income families
Mm.
because and really it's tied to healthcare, access to healthcare.
Mm.
And all those statistics. We're not going to get into that stuff, but like for some of the families we help, $250 might as well be 100,000. Like it's
Yeah.
just not obtainable for them. And so we've helped some families who had the funds. They just didn't want to deal with it because of all the grief they were experiencing. And for
Sure.
us, we're pretty liberal when it comes to the financial requirements that will help
Mm.
because the need is you lost your child you wanted. And so
Yeah.
and we have seen some family, like we had a memorial walk last year. It was our first one.
Great.
And we had some families that we helped came out and walked. And so it was just such a touching moment to meet some of the families. We had one family create a fundraising team, and they raised more money than we assisted them with. And
Wow.
so, so like them giving back to us was very heartwarming. And so there's been a lot of positive interactions, um, and therapeutic for me as well, because I'm still carrying that grief with, losing my son. It'll never go away. Um, but like it's been helpful to me as well. And so,
Sure. I can imagine that. Yes, and I'm glad you mentioned that. Aaron, I'd like to bring up the websites. You just mentioned last year was the first annual memorial walk. And here is the website for the October 3rd, 2026 Ari Foss Foundation Memorial Walk. It's a very easy button here to donate and to purchase tickets. Even to date, you have a goal here of $75,000, almost 20% to the goal already with 6 months plus to go. So that is fantastic. And I'll also pivot to your foundation's website as well, which is here. And so this is the website for the Ari Foss Foundation itself. Button here in the lower left to donate. And you've talked about the funding requests quite movingly. So there's a button there for information. And I've looked through this in preparation for today's conversation, and very moving, touching about us section on the website, the partnerships you have. There's the MUSC, as you were mentioning earlier. So I encourage people to check out the websites for both and to donate.
well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, the memorial walk. So, I went to a bunch of therapy after we lost Ari to help deal with the grieving process. And one of the things I learned, because my therapist figuratively beat it into my head. I'm sure she wanted to literally do it, but because it took me so long, was
Mhm.
both and. You can be both like happy and sad at the same time. And that was a real struggle for me to learn for a long time. And so with our memorial walk, we kind of embrace that both and we're like, we're here to both remember the children we've lost. And now anyone can come out and who has had a loss to it, but we're also here to have a good time as well. So like we have vendors that are there, food trucks.
Mhm.
Then we also have a memorial making area where someone can make a memorial for their child that they lost. And
Mhm.
it's not just for the families that we've helped. We had at least one that I can think of off the top of my head. They had lost a child in the 90s, and they
Oh,
came out. They just saw us on the news and they came out. So it was really a good community building event.
yeah.
October is the reason why it's the first weekend in October. That's infant and pregnancy loss month, and so
Okay.
so that's why we picked October. So it's an unfortunate community to belong to, and it's a lot more common than people think. In South Carolina, roughly one out of every 95 pregnancies, I think it is, end in stillbirth or neonatal loss.
Oh, goodness.
And
Wow.
so it's now when you look at numbers statistically, you see numbers higher, like one out of 100 and something. The reason why the one I gave you is lower is because I've combined stillbirth and neonatal loss. You typically don't see them together. And when they are separate, it is a higher number. I mean, a better ratio because they're not combined. But when you combine them, it really brings down that ratio. And it really is the true impact that
Mhm.
is being done. So.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And excuse me, I'm glad you mentioned um, the the story about the family seeing it on the news. I typically have a set series of questions, and then as guests in these conversations describe what they're doing in the nonprofit world or in their communities, I listen for follow-up questions and so forth. So I was going to ask about, news outlets and publicizing your cause. So you have the websites, your foundation's been on the news with the Memorial Walk. Are there other avenues you have explored or may explore to raise more awareness about the foundation and stillbirth and neonatal loss?
And so I briefly mentioned earlier, I have a for-profit business. Not for us to discuss. I say that in, I bring that mindset to the not-for-profit business. So
Hmm.
any nonprofit is a not-for-profit business. It's just when we talk, we drop off the business part and we just say non-for-profit. And so um, we our first and only hire so far has been a marketing and fundraising person
I see.
because and that's what Maggie does is primarily marketing. And she does fundraising as well, but like marketing is the thing because we're a business and we even though we're a not-for-profit business, we still need awareness and we still need to get, awareness out there, eyeballs on us. And a lot of nonprofits are like, no, that's the last person we hire. No, we need to do the mission. Like we are doing the mission. I volunteer all of my time.
Mm.
And so, and so like it was a conscious decision to hire someone for marketing versus the programming. I do want to grow the programming and we are slowly starting to grow it, but we can't grow it if we have no money. And if
Right.
and marketing helps bring that in. So like that's what when I talk with other nonprofits who are getting started, like you really got to focus on marketing because
Yeah.
you're a business, just a
Yeah.
not-for-profit business. Again, so many of us, so many drop off the business part of nonprofit. And
Yes.
so
Yeah.
and yeah, in local TV stations, they all want to they want to spread good word.
Hmm.
And so you reach out to them and you can get segments on them for your cause. And so
Yeah.
and be persistent. Got to be persistent. So if you
Yes.
the old saying, if you don't at first you don't try again or something like
That's right.
that. So um,
Yes. Well, thank you for sharing that. Um, I the next two questions are drawn from quotes that I come across in my reading outside of my work and family life. The first one is from a New York Times op-ed writer, Frank Bruni, and I believe this came out in 2024. In the article, the op-ed was titled, "The most important thing I teach my students isn't on the syllabus." And I wondered, Aaron, as you got the questionnaire ahead of time and this particular quote, um, I would be curious and appreciative of your reflections. Frank Bruni wrote, quote, "We all carry wounds, and some of us carry wounds much graver than others. We confront obstacles, including unjust and senseless ones. We must tend to those wounds. We must push hard at those obstacles." End quote. And as you and I were setting up the conversation and I was putting together the questionnaire, that quote came to mind about um, confronting really challenging, unjust tragedies. I'm just would like to hear any reflections about how the starting of this foundation in Ari's honor and memory has that been therapeutic for you as a way to at least help to tend wounds?
so in the beginning, no, that was not the intent, but that is what has happened.
Okay.
Um, and so the idea to start the nonprofit was my idea, and my wife was quickly became on board. I mean, there was no real discussion. I just had the idea, and she said yes.
Uh-huh.
Um, and the reason why we started is we wanted his life to have meant something.
Yes.
I can't speak to every other state. I've only ever had children in South Carolina. Um, since he never took a breath, he never legally existed. And
Sure.
so
Mm.
by law, he never existed. And that didn't feel right to me. And
Sure.
so I wanted his life to have meant something. I'm not into the debate on when life starts, when life doesn't, abortion, anti-abortion. That's not the debate I'm in. This was Ari was the child we wanted.
Yes.
And I became a father the moment my wife woke me up and she was hyperventilating because she found out she was pregnant. And that's when
Mm.
I realized, like, oh, beep, I've got to get my stuff together. Life just got real. And
Yes.
so that's when my life changed, was when we found out we were having a child.
Yes.
And so there were, I mean, 9 months, I mean, didn't find out at the very beginning. You find out, a few weeks later, but still, like, roughly 9 months of I'm a dad. I'm going to be a dad. And so
Yeah.
we had that whole life planned with him, and I didn't want that. I wanted him to exist and to have meant something, and not just to us. And so
Understandably.
that's why we started the Ari Foss Foundation. And what we selected to do in his memory, obviously, what we do is the worst has already happened. Um, Prevention is obviously significantly better. That's what you want. When it's the baby you want, you would much rather prevent. There is so much money already in that space. I mean, tons of organizations already doing wonderful things. March of Dimes, Jude's with cancer research. Like, there's just so much money in that.
Yeah.
We wouldn't even be a drop in that bucket. Like,
Understand.
because we could not make an impact, but we could make an impact helping families when the unthinkable happens, because in our area, nobody was doing it. So we are the only option for some of these families. Um, and then over time, though, it has become therapeutic. At first, I wouldn't talk to families. It was no, we are doing email only.
I
I
see.
don't want to talk with them. I can't talk with them.
Yeah.
It's not a like a want or an ability. Like, emotionally, I can't.
Yes.
Um, that has since changed, and I was able to start talking with families. And then I met a family that we helped, and
Mm.
that was a whole new realm, and that was before the memorial walk.
Right.
And then just this year, a father reached out to me that we had helped and asked, "Can we meet and talk?"
Wow.
And I was like, "What do I do?"
Mm.
I want to say no because I don't know if I'm good with that, but he's reaching out. I didn't have anyone to reach out, so I said, yeah. And I realized, though, a year ago, I wouldn't have been able to do that. And
Mm.
so this has become very therapeutic for me in helping families, because it's again, it's like it's a community no one wants to belong to, and kind of, and being able to help them helps me as well. And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
um, so don't
That,
know if that's what you're looking for in that
yes,
answer, but yeah.
definitely it is. And thank you for sharing that so
Oh,
movingly.
well, I'll go a little bit deeper on that, though.
Sure.
So I was talking with someone that does some grant work, and I was asking him, like, "Hey, we have trouble applying for grants," because he's like, and this gentleman, he works at a local organization called the Coastal Community Foundation. They are wonderful nonprofits. I recommend any nonprofit look for a coastal, I mean, not coastal, sorry, look for a community foundation in your area. They're wonderful to work with. Anyhow, he asked, like, "What are you doing when you apply for grants?" I'm like, "Oh, we're applying for money to help people pay for funerals and cremations." He goes, "Is that what you do?" I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "What do you mean? That's all you do?" And I was like, "Yeah." And, like, again, going like the therapist, he's like, "Come on, man, get with the program here. Hit me with that, invisible bat." He's
Right.
like, "All right, but why?" I go, "So they can focus on grieving." I go, "Cool." He's like, "So what do you do?" And I was like, "We pay for things." And he's like, "Come on now, why do you pay for things?" I'm like, "To help them get to the grieving process." And he's like, "Okay, so what do you do?" And I was like, "Oh, we help people, grieve and get, we're trying to help them in their grieving process." And he's like, "That's what you do." And so we're in the process of developing an education and support program
Oh,
where
wow.
we can focus on the whole human after the financial assistance. So right now, our assistance
Wow.
ends when we make that payment, because therapy saved me. Like, it was,
Hmm.
I mean, I wasn't suicidal or anything like that. It was just I was in a dark place, but therapy got me out of that dark place. And so we really are trying to look at how can we support these families after that loss. And we're
Yeah.
starting to look at the whole human, not just the one component of the financial need. in the
Oh,
front end. And therapy is expensive. If you can't afford, a cremation or a funeral, you definitely can't afford ongoing therapy. So
that's
we're
true.
starting to look at that as well. Because of the wounds everyone carries. Every family will carry these wounds forever.
Yes.
And we ideally would love to help them find resources to manage that so those wounds are easier to carry and not negatively impacting them for life because it can impact their children, other children that they have, relationship that they have. And so I'm real big on breaking cycles. And so like if this is a way to help some family, break a grieving cycle of like bad actions coming out of it, all the better. And so
Yes. Well, beautifully stated, Aaron. Thank you. We have about 15 minutes left. Want to be mindful of your time. I think you had a hard stop at will be 2 o'clock your time. Um, this may be a similar sentiment in terms of the quote that I'll read to you, and it does talk about empathy, as you mentioned earlier. Um, I I'm a child of the 80s. I remember Live Aid, the first one, in 1985. And about a year ago, the co-founder, Bob Geldof, who was a musician and now an activist, remarked in a New York Times interview that, quote, empathy is the glue of humanity. It is the basis of civilization. And when I read that quote, I thought I would like to just explore that with you, with your own outreach, as you've talked about. And I didn't know ahead of time. I knew the financial service you provide to families. I wasn't aware until just a moment ago about the whole person educational healing that you're hoping to now offer as well. I'm just curious, what have you learned about yourself as an empathetic person from the support you've been able to provide other families going through the sudden loss of a newborn child and getting through to be able to talk about it, as you mentioned, reaching out, proactively reaching out when someone contacts you. Just anything you'd like to share along those lines, please.
yeah, I'm not really sure if empathy was in my vocabulary before we lost Ari. I mean, I've always been a caring person. I've done some other stuff in the nonprofit world, um, but I wouldn't say empathy was something I was actively thinking about.
Mm,
I would say I was firmly in sympathy when things happen to people, and so it's like I'm working on a presentation I'm going to give later this month talking about the difference between sympathy and empathy.
mm,
And sympathy is it's a much older term. It's been around since the 1600s, whereas empathy, came around in the 1900s.
oh,
And sympathy used to kind of encompass what empathy is. And sympathy is really like from your perspective, like, oh, I imagine that's really bad because that would have hurt me too. Like,
I see.
whereas empathy is more putting yourself in how they feel and
Hmm.
like how they're feeling it. And so, um, the it took me a while, and this was something I worked through with therapy, is I would have some people tell me that my loss was harder than their loss because they lost their child at X period. Or I've had some people say, well, I had this happen, so it was harder. And those people would piss me, sorry, would really make me mad. Like, how dare you
Sure.
tell me?
Yeah.
Um, and then and I realized over time that when the worst thing that has happened to you happens to you, what the worst thing that's happened to me, that they're equal. It doesn't
Mm,
matter what they are. If you like my best friend passed away when he was 24. And when I was
mm,
talking with his mom, she was like, I can't imagine this to you. This is so much worse than when we lost Derek. Um, because you never got to meet your child, you never got to take a breath. And I was like, well, I can imagine this is worse for you because you had 24 years of your son, and
mm.
he was just coming into the man he was going to be, and getting into like ready to maybe start a family, maybe not. Who knows?
Right. Right.
uh, But like getting into the adulthood,
Yeah.
and so that's when it really clicked for me. Like for both of us, it was the worst thing that's ever happened. So they were equal.
Yeah.
And so now I've had some people lament about their dog passing and how they can relate. Like I'm like, no, like we draw the line. Like, no,
Yeah.
we gotta. And so it's like I have a lot more empathy for people who have real trauma in their lives, but I have no patience for people that manufacture drama or issues that really aren't there.
Yeah.
And so I've become like harder and softer at the same time.
Interesting.
Um,
Yeah.
Especially in my for-profit business, the nature of what I do over there, I get a lot of excuses sometimes. Like, I don't want to hear it. Like, no. But then when there is something that happens, I'm like, hey, how can we work to get around this? Like, people first, always. Like, it's family always comes first, business always comes second.
Yeah.
And so I've become harder and softer at the same time. And I'm always trying to look at how someone else would feel in this situation. And it doesn't matter what I think, it matters what they think. Like someone, like, so stillbirth, a lot of stillbirths happen due to something genetic.
Oh,
And some of the families that we help, maybe they've known for a month or two that their child was going to pass away. It was just a matter of time because of genetics. And so one could argue, I don't, but one could argue they've known for 2 months, therefore that passing should be easier to deal with.
mhm.
Whereas we went in for a healthy delivery and things went sideways.
Yeah.
And one can make that argument that ours was harder than theirs, but I don't see it that way. I see it as you were holding out hope that it wouldn't go that way. And you were hoping that there'd be a cure, and then the finality of the passing hits you. And
Yes.
so again, like from an empathetic standpoint, that was the child you want. So like we're equal in our grief. And so that's how I try to view all of them. And even the families who have, they birthed their child and then passed away a week or two later. Um, and so that, it's all difficult.
Sure. Absolutely. Well, Aaron, thank you very much for talking with me today and talking about the work of the Ari Foss Foundation, how you're remembering and honoring Ari as a family and as a community and making some real positive strides for other families that go through tragic loss. And thank you for having the websites that I could direct people to as well. And look forward to hearing how the walk goes this October and your other efforts to help families and individuals go through some extremely hard moments in life and to uplift them as you're able to. So I really appreciate your time today.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. It's like we never say we're grateful. Oh, I'm sorry. We never say we're happy to help families
Mm.
because it's not the outcome we always say we're grateful that we're able to help them. Like we watch the news, any of us watching the news, there's a lot of bad things in the world. I can't change the world, but hopefully we can help make someone's world a little bit better by helping them. And so,
Yeah.
and that's what we're striving to do.
Yes. Well, thank you for that. And before our audience, thank you for listening and watching these conversations on a weekly basis. I'll be pleased to share Aaron Silverman's conversation on people and fundraising across the various platforms that you're accustomed to finding these interviews on LinkedIn, which will have a link to the YouTube audio video portion of the interview for people that like to listen to podcasts the old-fashioned way, just with their earbuds, Podbean. And thanks to my 100th guest, Luis Diaz of WISE and the Donor Participation Project, you'll be able to find Aaron Silverman's conversation on my website, peopleandfundraising.wordifysites.com. All of those will be aired the same, all of the platforms will have the interview aired on the same day in April of 2026. Aaron, thank you again for your time today, and I look forward to hearing how your walk progresses in the next 6 months, and I look forward to staying in touch with you.
Yeah, I loved it. Thank you, Tim. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.